It's safe to rest. It's safe to relax. And it's safe to do it not from a place of burnout and blowout. So in this week's episode, I am actually in Mykonos, and this episode is going out just 24 hours after filming. Normally there's a little buffer time in my pods, but in this week's episode, I felt like I had a lot to say from a very restful trip here in Greece. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Lucy Super Fox show. I am here in Mykonos in my gorgeous hotel room. We're staying at Charisma Hotel Suites and Spa, I think it's called, and it's got a great gym, it's got reformers, it's got indoor pool, outdoor pool, and it has got the most amazing natural surroundings. So a little bit away from the hustle and bustle in Mykonos. And it was exactly what we needed and exactly what I wanted from a holiday and vacation. But something came up for me this week, which actually I really thought I'd processed and dealt with. And isn't that the joy of the healing journey, right? It's every level. There's a new freaking devil. So this week was actually my premenstrual week. So the week going into my period. And I felt absolutely amazing. The first day and a half we were here, I felt great. I was relaxed. I was enjoying life. I was like reading my book. I was chilling. And then Thursday rocked around and I just was overcome with this overwhelming anxiety. And then this overwhelming kind of deep sense of like, it felt like a shadow. That's only the way I can describe it. And what I know about my hormones from my own internal research, from my own knowledge, from my own experience is that actually this is pretty common and pretty normal when we're going into another hormonal phase. So I'm going into, I'm kind of in early perimenopause and this is actually normal. But what was so interesting about this was that normally I'm at home, right? So if I'm at home and I'm going into this premenstrual week, I keep myself busy. I keep myself going. I'm focused on clients. I'm focused on emails, or there's always stuff to do. So as much as it can feel hard, and I do allow myself to feel how I really feel, like that's, one of the things I say to my clients all the time is be where your feet are. And I'm really good at that now. I'm really good at being where my feet are. What this brought up for me this week was because I wasn't busy, because I wasn't working with clients, because I've literally got all the space and all the time in the day, meant that I was absolutely where my feet were. But rather than this being an emotion I had to process or feel, I just chemically felt like crap. I just felt so empty, so down, so irritable. My husband can vouch for that. And just so on edge. And it was the most frustrating 3 days because I knew I was going to bleed. So I absolutely knew my period was going to come. I was already knocking on 33 days and I was like, this is dragging itself out. And I could just feel this overwhelming sense of frustration and because I just wanted to bleed. And any woman that listens to this is going to go, yep, I know exactly how that feels. So I got to the place where yesterday I was really, really flat. We were at an amazing beach club. It was gorgeous. We had a great time, but I just was in the worst freaking mood. And it was great. My husband is the most understanding human on the planet and doesn't need me to be a certain way for him to be a certain way. He regulates his own nervous system very well through training. This just overwhelming low energy was not about fatigue or exhaustion like it was earlier in the week. It was just about, I was just so fucking irritated. And I'm drinking a lot less alcohol. That's a preference and a choice. And so it wasn't like I was just going to go have a bender and blow out to not feel it. And I didn't come into this holiday burnt out and exhausted from my life because of the fact that I do all the things I talk to you guys about, right? I take care of myself, I nourish myself, my well-being comes first. And as a result, my business is an extension of that. So the ease and flow I have in my everyday life shows up in my business. So stress isn't something I experience that often, right? And stress has some good parts to play. That's a whole other thing coming up. But I wasn't in this week feeling like I was crushed and down or burnt out. Actually, I came into this week feeling pretty chilled, feeling really excited, feeling pretty happy. And so to feel this way was almost so soul crushing. But here was the magic. The magic was realizing that it was safe to not only sit with the frustration and the angst and the kind of anxiety that was coming up chemically, but also to sit with the fact that I had nothing to do. And both of those things were okay. And as much as it wasn't what I wanted, actually the biggest part of healing, a huge part of healing, in fact, is not forcing yourself to feel differently than you feel. And that's why I'm so almost grateful this has happened while I'm here, because it's allowed me to see that, I am chemically influenced with my hormones quite significantly. And that sometimes that probably has a knock-on effect on my life, but I don't have to make that mean anything. I don't have to make that mean anything about my success, about my health, about my body goals, about my relationship. And by having this experience this week, and I can sit here and say this to you now because I am now bleeding and I'm like, oh, thank God. And as much as I'm in pain, the thing with me is the magic happens when I start bleeding, my brain comes back online, as you can tell, because I'm here. So what was so interesting about this experience was reminding myself it was safe to rest. Reminding myself it was safe to be where I am, to be where my feet are. It was safe to relax. It was safe to embrace whatever was coming up for me and to not need it to mean anything about any other area of my life. And this is what happens so much of the time is we want to say, oh, I've been sick for 5 days, so therefore I'm not going to hit my business goals. Or I haven't hit my step target for the last week, so I'm not going to hit my body goals. Or I ate crap at the weekend, so therefore I've failed on my diet this month. And we just have all these bullshit polarizing narratives around that center around this kind of awe, that it's rest or success, that it's be ill and take time out or achieve my goals. And I've said this so many times, and it's going to be the narrative over the next couple of months of this podcast. So if this isn't a vibe for you, now's your time to unsubscribe. It's not about or. It's about and. Both things can be true at once. I could be chemically low on my period and feeling anxious and down and grumpy and irritable and still hit my money goals this month and still have a thriving marriage and still have a wonderful holiday and still hit my body goals this month. And, because when we hold on to this or mentality, the mentality of sacrifice, we hold on to the mentality of lack. We hold on to the mentality of struggle. We hold on to the mentality of suffering. And in my growth experience, I was so attached to the narratives of awe because what they meant was, if I achieve my goals, then I could be successful. If I hit this financial goal, then I would be worthy. If I had this certain body or hit this certain dress size or whatever the goal was, then I would be worthy. Then I would be safe. Then I would be enough. But in that world, everything is always conditional. Your worth is conditional. Your safety is conditional. Your wealth is conditional. You're conditional. But if you want to move into a place of manifesting and attracting abundance, holding space for love, being in a deeply intimate, committed marriage, having a body that you love, that you nurture and nourish and you have a relationship with, having a beautiful relationship with money where it flows to you and you trust that it comes in and also you spend it with abundance. Like if you want any of those things, you have to move out of the mentality of sacrifice, lack, and awe. And you have to move into the mentality of and. Two things can be true at once. Two polarizing ideas can be true at once. Look at the world we live in. There are people living in completely different narratives, completely different stories about how life goes, and both of those things are true. But what we say is that we have to pick some side, or we have to pick some camp, or we have to be on the left or be on the right, or we have to swing this way or swing that way, or we have to choose. And the choice is to choose that both things can be true at once. And that doesn't put you on the fence with spikes up your bum. That doesn't put you in beige land. That puts you in a place where you get to choose that your life isn't based on polarizing ideas and that you get to sit in a position where you get to have it all. You get to have the deeply loving marriage and a thriving business. You get to have the great, healthy, supportive body, and you get to rest. This isn't about struggle and sacrifice. And so what this week really reminded me, right? And as I come into a season of launching a brand new program, which is all about having it all, I was forced to sit with my own lessons and my own experience and to reflect back on one of the biggest shifts I've ever had in my personal development journey, which is it's not about or, it's about and. Two things can be true at once. Both things can be true at the same time. And that is what I choose. I choose to believe that I can have had a rough few days and that won't have impacted my overall holiday experience. That I can have a low chemical few days and my business will still thrive this month. I can have those low chemical few days and be irritable and grumpy with my husband and that he'll still love me, right? I can hold space for those two things at once because I'm not making those low days or the grumpy days or the sick days or whatever days might be happening for you. I'm not making them mean that I can't be successful or I'm not worthy or I'm not lovable or I'm not da-da-da-da. So whenever we're telling conditional beliefs about an area of our life, we're limiting ourselves. We're holding ourselves like victims to sacrifice. We're keeping ourselves stuck in the struggle. And we're addicted to the struggle because we believe our worth is at the end of it. And I've said this before, struggle is not required. But where there has been struggle, there will always be strength. But your previous struggles are not a determining factor on whether or not you will be successful. and you do not need to struggle again in order to be successful. But what you do have to decide is whether you are living in a mentality of sacrifice and struggle and awe, or if you're going to live in the world of and, where two things get to be true at once, where three things get to be true at once, where you get to have it all. And that was my biggest reminder lesson this week as I go into really delving deep into writing the Goddess Code, which is the 7-step strategy to having it all. It's a brand new program. It's a self-paced program where you are going to have the exact steps 1 to 7, across 7 epic modules on having it all in love, money, body, and business. So if you want to join the waitlist, you can go to lucysuperfox.com/goddess and register your name, and you get all the deets as soon as it's launched. So this week has been an interesting reflection and reminder for me that we get to have it all, that it's safe to rest, it's safe to relax, and it's safe to have it all. So if you love this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you on the next one.